Tutankhamun's mask is an icon. And I think part of it is because it is made of solid gold, and a lot of people get wowed by
I'm about to show you what scientists discovered some 3,000 years ago that'll completely change what you thought you knew about King Tut's mask. King Tutankhamun's burial mask is one of the world's most recognizable artifacts from ancient Egypt, a stunning combination of gold, colored glass, and precious stones. For almost a century, it has been a symbol of the wealth and mystique of pharaonic Egypt. Its modern fame has been bolstered by scientific scans of the mask, revealing secrets that challenge long-held misconceptions of the mask's surface. Previous impressions of the mask as a flawlessly merged whole are proved wrong, as the mask contains numerous and far more complicated layers of ancient repair work and materials. The mask is no longer a static object, but it is almost alive under modern technologies. British archaeologist Howard Carter found the mask in the nearly untouched tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun in the Valley of the Kings in 1922. He and the world's media were the first to witness the impact of the discovery. Newspapers called it the most sensational archaeological find of the 20th century. Tutankhamun was a minor pharaoh, and his treasures made him an icon of antiquity. For years, historians believed that the mask had been made uniformly and did not change. This was an assumption that high-resolution scanning technology began to unravel. During the turn of the last century, researchers began utilizing new methods to examine the inner construction of the mask, including the use of X-ray and CT scan, as well as other non-invasive methods. These new methods do not require physical contact between the scientist and the sample being taken. Instead, the methods analyze the composition of metals present in the sample by determining how the metals respond to different electromagnetic radiation frequencies. The mask is composed of a variety of metals with other attributes, indicating that the mask was built in a variety of workshops, or at least the gold used to make the mask was assembled in different places. The different gold metals used to make the mask may have different impurity metals, and the gold used in the construction of the mask was also used for other purposes. In addition to these facts, there is also microscopic imaging, which has revealed cracks, restorations, and other element damage from centuries of sand, as well as the excavation of the tomb of King Tut. These damages have raised concerns for decades among archaeologists, as most of the damage to the artifact were sustained from centuries of burial, excavation, and then being on display. The recent non-invasive methods used on the mask suggest that the mask may have been restored, which were performed in the ancient near future after the mask was created. The repairs may have been the result of disturbances in the tomb, environmental factors, or deliberate acts by ancient priests or caretakers of the tomb. The modern study of spectral analysis demonstrates an astonishing variety of inlaid materials used in the mask's decoration. It appears the beard, collar, and eyebrows, once thought to have been inlaid with lapis lazuli and quartz, include glass, faience, and other synthetic materials, manufactured, used, and manufactured by archaeologists as recently as the last few decades. Furthermore, it suggests that ancient Egyptian craftsmen had much more sophisticated knowledge of glass and mineral composite materials than has been traditionally attributed to their era. Therefore, the mask's artistry and refinement, while representing royal status, also display technologically advanced materials and techniques of the time. While the mask's exterior appears to be perfectly symmetrical, its internal structure is just as fascinating. CT scans show a sort of layered internal skeleton that provides structure or reinforcement to the mask's gilded shell. This kind of internal structure suggests that the ancient metalworkers had knowledge of stress and weight distribution that surpasses the understanding of historians of the time. It is also a testament to the fact that the mask is not just ornamental. It is designed to last through the rigors of centuries of burial. Tutankhamun's death mask shows that more was known about ancient Egyptian metalworking and craftsmanship than previously thought. For instance, textbooks used to state that metalworking was as simple as hammering down sheets of gold, but the mask has other techniques, such as precision metal joining and casting techniques. These casting techniques, previously thought to belong to the Greeks, Romans, show that if Egyptian craftspeople used these techniques, they would have used these techniques earlier than other civilizations. Scanning the mask also works on several levels. Why was the mask repaired so soon after the burial? Some theorize it was in response to an ancient attempt at tomb robbing, which has a history of people stealing adornments placed on the tombs. For example, other ancient writings, graffiti on surrounding walls, with their records show people keeping watch on tombs. It seems that the mask was repaired to attempt to obscure the earlier tomb robbery. If this is correct, it goes to show how people have created a story involving the mask that goes to show how, in an effort to preserve the spirit of the burial, they added a dramatic or intensive story to the mask. Another theory maintains that the fixes symbolized ritual reconsecration. From dynasty to dynasty in ancient Egypt, religious customs shifted. In the case of the mask, the reclosures of the mask were not merely decorative, but ritualistic to correspond to the evolving religious system in the shadows of the growing cult of the gods and changing funerary practices after Tutankhamun. Thus, after the young pharaoh died, it can be posited that the mask went through different religious interpretations and was sanctified through newer investments. The most sophisticated of the experiments conducted, scanning positively influenced our understanding of the interactions of the tomb environment and the burial objects. The original microabrasion studies that were the result of water exposures in the burial objects of the tomb and what is now the so-called Valley of the Kings are the result of flooding, and so the hypothesis that the tomb environment was a dry burial vault is now in question. If water was present in the tomb at different times in the millennia, it could help explain the condition of the burial objects, the deterioration observed, and the repairs that needed to be done to the tomb. The use of radiographic analysis changed the perception of the mask being a single homogeneous object. It is more likely that the outer mask and inner face covering are two separate pieces that have been fitted together. This is a significant change from previous art historical narratives. It may represent artisans optimizing the mask for both artistic display and functional robustness for burial rituals. Such a two-piece construction may have aided previous restoration attempts or revision for different phases of funerary rites. Chemical residues found in the mask's crevices are yet another finding of the scanning process. These residues, which are considered to be remnants of ancient incense or resin, indicate that the mask may have been dynamically placed during the burial rituals, as opposed to just being placed there. Also, the rituals were multi-phased, involving anointing, purifying, and multiple offerings made during the rituals. It is plausible that the mask was subjected to flames, smoke, and chemicals, and those residues are detectable today. This supports the idea of a living semi-functional ceremonial space in King Tut's burial complex, as opposed to a mere stagnant stone chamber. Tool marks and pattern inconsistencies discovered during 3D surface scanning are a fascinating addition to the findings. The different working techniques suggest the possibility of collaborative workshops, or perhaps the refinement of a craft through generations. This suggests Egyptian craft mastery may have been more dispersed across specialized guilds than previously assumed, and may indicate that the mask represents the work of several specialized artisans rather than a single master. Additionally, the DNA and isotopic residue found near but not on the mask further complicates the story of Tutankhamun. Recent debates concerning the mask have included criticism aimed at a contemporary intervention from 2014. While the Egyptian Museum in Cairo was doing a routine cleaning of the mask, the braided ceremonial beard broke off after being snagged. Museum staff members, in a rush to fix the beard, used the epoxy resin, an irreversible substance in conservation, to reattach it instead of using a conservation-friendly, reversible method. The epoxy became visible and hardened, creating a yellow line that raised alarm for the conservation community. The criticism led to a major conservation outcry and an international full restoration campaign for the museum in 2015 and 2016, where German, Egyptian conservators collaborated to remove epoxy that was placed under a microscope and used epoxy. The process involved adhesives to be used without scratching the gold surface of the mask and specialized tools for heating. This epoxy event was the first to apply new conservation techniques, as well as to improve the conservation policy in Egyptian museums, but it also demonstrated how a contemporary intervention has the potential to be an artifact's evolving story of science. More laboratory work analyzed the mask's soldering details for the first time. Metallurgists analyzed the join lines and concluded that ancient craftsmen used diffusion bonding and not simple mechanical fastening in some seams. Bonding occurs when metal components are heated to just below the melting point so that some atoms cross the grain boundaries. This indicates an empirical understanding of temperature and kiln control, which is, of course, beyond the simple charcoal box furnace. The system of furnace control and regulated airflow would have been sophisticated. The use of bellows in the New Kingdom would have been far more advanced than previously thought. Experimental archaeologists have tried to replicate such bonding under an assumed ancient condition. Their work indicates that to obtain such high-quality joins would require operating at an utterly unacceptable level of precision. The mask is therefore evidence of an unprecedented level of metallurgy and operational sophistication at royal workshops. It illustrates that the workshops were more than just places of artisanal improvisation. Scientific analysis of the pigments used on the mask has allowed for the study of some of the more complex uses of color on the mask. The deep blue stripes of the Nemesis headdress were thought for many years to be made of lapis lazuli. However, recent studies have shown that some of the stripes are made of a glass that is colored cobalt. Cobalt, along with its minerals, must be transported over large distances. This means that Egypt had trade routes that extended to the Near East. The presence of synthetic pigments shows that the Egyptians made aesthetic choices, and that these choices were not made on the basis of symbolism alone. Egyptian artisans had a command over color and its manipulation at a chemical level. This shows a high degree of intentionality that historians have had to reconcile with the more liberal interpretations of the decorative elements of royal burial sites. As for the color scheme of the mask used during burial, it was designed to be incredibly vibrant when torches are used for lighting. When the lighting is provided by oil lamps, the combination of gold and cobalt used with the mask would have an extremely high level of reflection. The burial chamber would not look dark, but would be brightly illuminated. Material stress mapping has revealed important details about the mask's weight distribution. Engineered simulations of strain found that the heaviest pieces of gold rest on the reinforced internal ridges. These ridges will hold the mask from warping and will help retain the face's symmetry over the years. Given that the mask weighs in excess of 10 kilograms, such structural foresight is important. Buried artifacts experienced shifting pressures from the adjacent layers of sarcophagi and coffins. The design of the mask will minimize long-term deformation under this kind of static load. These structural traits suggest a kind of knowledge that has been handed down through the generations in royal workshops. Artisans probably fine-tuned the design of the mask in response to the results of previous burials. The mask is a testament to the knowledge accumulated through the centuries of funerary production that has been layered on top of itself. It is the result of a process of layered refinement designed to ease the burden of the mask's features, rather than a stroke of individual genius. Researchers are also reviewing writings on the shoulders and back of the mask. The hieroglyphs of the spells are from the Book of the Dead and are meant to protect the pharaoh in the afterlife. New beliefs about the depth of the engravings have led researchers to suggest that some of the inscriptions may have been done by different engravers. This aspect of collaboration parallels the findings from studies of tool marks. This supports the idea of fully specialized sub-teams within state workshops. Within the more precise studies of the inscriptions, some ambiguities in translation have been resolved. Some of the protective phrases translated more strongly than previous studies in terms of bodily reconstruction and the protective divinities. This translated ambiguity interestingly coincides with the construction of reinforced structural elements in the mask. Text and construction seem to have been integrated. Protection was both in a spiritual and structural sense. Studies on the climate of the Valley of the Kings provide insight into environmental factors affecting the preservation of the burial masks. Periodic and cyclical variations in humidity and moisture over thousands of years can cause resins and adhesives in burial items to break down. From the studies, varying corrosion on burial masks suggests that the burial items and masks were affected inconsistently by these corrosion cycles over time. There were changes to the tomb's microclimate due to the environment shifting and the seismic exposure following the tomb's discovery. These variations also offered insight to conservators that allowed for optimized protective storage. Existing humidity and light control systems in display cases help to prolong the preservation of artifacts and apply new preservation methods to study the artifacts. Preservation of artifacts has grown to become a distinct, interdisciplinary field of study. Examples of comparative analysis have shown how perspectives can shift again. The fragments of royal masks before Tutankhamun's masks, although unwieldy, are still of a lower construction quality when compared. The late 18th dynasty, circa 1370 to 1341 BC, is noted for a remarkable increase in the level of construction detail produced in royal workshops. Based on the records of royal construction, it is presumed that the 18th dynasty utilized the services of highly skilled craftsmen owing to the extended periods of royal construction and abundance of new materials. Tutankhamun's mask is probably the last example produced in the 18th dynasty. The most noticeable difference in mask construction in the 19th dynasty is the shift toward a more conservative approach in detail. This shift in the detail of construction and use of more conservative methods signifies a major shift in the construction of royal masks. This is a result of a fusion of the new ideology of construction from the period of Akhenaten and the pre-Akhenaten period of construction. The combination of less construction detail and a more conservative approach signifies the pre-Akhenaten and post-Akhenaten fusion of construction ideologies. The studies, as mentioned previously, have shed much more light on the period P. Through Gardner's analysis of the mask, it is shown that the study of the object itself illustrates both the temporality and the social construction of the object. In testing the mask, social theory helped frame the use and construction of the mask to integrate social theory with the physical use of the object, hence tracing back to King Tut's tomb.
Wow.
The mask is not a simple object. It is a reflection of the complex systems and silences of both the ancient social structure and the belief systems. The analysis of the mask under social theory is both a reflection of the nation's desire to simplify the mask and deeply describe the social ideologies of the civilization that produced it. If this deep dive into the shocking scientific discoveries revealed by modern scanning changed how you think about King Tut and ancient Egypt, press that like button, share and subscribe for more history investigations that challenge assumptions and unveil truth one layer at a time. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.